everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today's gentle yoga sequence is a nice, straightforward, full body flow. And we're going to be moving nice and slowly through some postures to wake up the body all the way from the crown of the head to the tips of the toes. And we'll start as usual in easy pose. So if it feels nice to bring some sort of bolster or block underneath the base of the tailbone, please feel free to do so now. That could be a book or a cushion, anything that you have available to you in your home. Just begin by bringing the palms of the hands to the knees, softening the eyelids closed. As you begin to inhale a little bit more deeply, see if you can start to grow taller through the spine, reaching the crown of the head up toward the sky. And as you exhale, see if you can start to roll the shoulders down and away from the ears, creating a little bit more length in the neck, softening through the back, softening through the hips and the knees. And we're going to take a pranayama practice this morning called alternate nostril breathing. So we're going to start by lifting up the palm of the right hand, bringing it towards the face. We'll be using the thumb to close off the right nostril, and then you have a choice between your ring finger to close off the left. If that feels uncomfortable for the hand in terms of the position that it's taking here, you can always take simply the thumb and the index finger. That makes it a little bit easier. So whichever hand position you feel comfortable taking now. And we'll start by bringing the ring finger or the index finger to the left nostril and closing that nostril off altogether. We'll begin by inhaling through the right side of the nose. At the top of the inhale, close the right nostril with the thumb and exhale out through the left side of the nose. And inhale through the left side. Close off the left nostril at the top and exhale out through the right. Inhaling through the right then and continuing at your own pace of breath. See if you can find a nice slow, steady rhythm. If it feels comfortable, you can soften the eyelids closed once again. Turn the attention or the awareness back inside of the body and become aware of the slightly different sensation that the breath creates when we use this practice. It's great for clearing the sinuses, for balancing the nervous system. And it's a really good stress relieving pranayama practice as well. So this one can be great to do before bed, or if you happen to wake up in the middle of the night, if you suffer from any sort of insomnia. So just continue for another couple of rounds. If at any point it feels so different on one side to the other that it starts to feel a little bit challenging to breathe in as much as you would like to on one side, just take a rest, take a break. Take a couple of deep rounds of breath in and out through both sides of the nose, and then we'll dive back in and carry on just for another few rounds. So at the bottom of your next round of breath, return that right palm to the knee. Keep the eyes closed, grow tall again through the spine as you inhale. And exhale, begin to blink the eyelids open. If you happen to have taken a block underneath the base of the tailbone here, start to move that out to one side. And we'll stay seated for our first couple of postures today. We'll begin by inhaling to float the arms up and overhead, connecting the palms at the top, maybe raising the gaze toward the thumbs if that feels comfortable for the neck. As you exhale, drop the right fingertips down to the ground and start to reach up and overhead into a nice side stretch here. So create length in both sides of the waist. Try not to collapse into the right side for the sake of finding a deeper stretch through the left. So as we're lifting up through the left fingertips, continue to roll that left shoulder down and away from the ear so that you're not crushing through the side of the neck. And if it feels comfortable, then to raise the gaze toward the left fingertips. You've got that option here. If it gives you any tension at all in the neck, you can bring the gaze back toward the front or send it down towards the right fingertips. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, start to make your way back nice and slowly through center. Left fingertips come to the earth. Inhale, reach that right arm up and overhead. Raise the gaze toward the right fingertips. And see if you start to notice here whether that right hip begins to lift up off the ground. Ground it back down nice and gently so that we are evenly distributing the weight of the body between both seat bones rather than tilting over toward that left side. So while we're aiming for length in both arms, we're also aiming for length in the waist, length in the neck, rolling that right shoulder down. Maybe raising the gaze toward the right fingertips, only if it feels comfortable in the neck. Find a little bit more activity through the arms. Take one more inhale. See if you can grow a little bit longer. And then exhale. Slowly start to make your way back through center. The next posture we'll be taking from a seated position for the upper body will be our eagle arms. So just switch the legs over before we come into the next posture. If you had the right leg in front, we'll bring the left leg in front this time, just to even out both sides of the lower body. And now we'll begin by crossing the right arm over the top of the left. So left arm is going to loop underneath the right. And you can bring the arms so that the elbows stack one on top of the other. From here, you've got one of two options. You can bring the backs of the hands to touch, or you can wrap the arms around one more time and bring the palms of the hands to touch in front of the face. So with this looping of the arms, I'll just turn a little bit on the diagonal so we can see more clearly. With this looping of the arms, you should start to feel as though the shoulder blades are pulling away from one another, as well as pulling away from the spine. Maybe you find that a little bit more space is becoming available in the upper back. And if there's still some space available to you, it might feel like a nice option to begin lifting the elbows in space, rolling the shoulders down and away from the ears. And if the hands are collapsing in toward the face, see if you can start to press the fingertips away, up toward the ceiling, and almost as though they're reaching toward the opposite corner of the room. So take a few deep breaths into the upper back. See if you can begin to invite the breath a little bit deeper as well. So visualize it coming all the way down the spine, reaching down towards the lower back. Take one more deep inhale. See if you can lift the arms a little bit higher in space. And exhale, start to slowly release the arms. Bring the palms of the hands back to the knees just for one moment. Allow the arms to settle back in. And we'll take that same posture to the opposite side. So bringing the left arm up now, looping the right arm underneath the left. Option number one, to bring the backs of the hands to touch. Or option number two, to loop all the way around. Bring the palms of the hands to connect in front of the face. So before we come deeper into this posture, take some time to notice how the stretch feels on this side of the body. It may feel much tighter or much looser on this side. It's quite common to have one side of the upper body that's a little or a lot more flexible than the opposite side. So if a little bit more space is beginning to open up for you here, it might feel good to lift the elbows in space again, inviting that stretch a little bit deeper. Maybe the shoulder blades begin to reach away from one another and reach away from the spine. And if the fingertips are collapsing in toward the face again, maybe see if you can begin to press them a little bit further away. So keep active through the palms of the hands and through the fingertips. Keep the fingertips reaching up and away from the head. So it should almost feel as though the creases of the elbows are trying to make their way up towards your eye line here. It won't be necessarily possible or comfortable to get them that high, but that's the action that we're looking for while keeping the shoulders down and away from the ears. So take one more breath here, inhaling through the nose. And exhaling out through the nose, releasing the hands down to the knees. Take a deep breath here with the eyes closed, absorb the effects of those postures on the upper body. We're going to cross the ankles over in front of the body and start to make our way onto our hands and knees for tabletop position. So stacking the wrists underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips, grounding down through the tops of the feet and the palms of the hands to find a nice active neutral back. So instead of dropping the belly down, we're sucking the belly button back toward the spine, keeping a nice straight back in our neutral tabletop. And from here we'll begin to work through our cat-cow to take that stretch a little bit deeper into the spine. So on your next inhale, start to drop the belly down toward the earth. Lift the gaze and lift the tailbone toward the sky. So we're finding that arch through the spine. Exhale to tuck the tailbone under, soften the head and neck between the upper arms. So dropping the crown of the head all the way down toward the earth here, and seeing if you can round through the spine as much as possible, hugging the navel back. Inhaling to drop the belly down, squeezing the shoulder blades toward one another to reach the chest and the heart forwards in space. Exhaling to press the earth away through the palms of the hands, round through the spine, tuck the tailbone forwards. One more time, inhale to reach the chest forwards. You can draw a nice big circle with the elbows, hug them in toward the ribs, reach the chest forwards. And then exhale, press the earth away. Maybe the shoulder blades start to feel like they're falling down the sides of the body. And on your next inhale, return to a nice neutral spine. And we'll sink back into child's pose. So begin by bringing the big toes to touch, walking the knees toward the outer edges of the mat, and sinking the hips back to the heels of the feet. Extend the arms long and soften the forehead down to the earth. So if the forehead doesn't quite make it to the ground, you can bring your block, your book or your cushion back into play here and just use it to support the forehead, however close your torso manages to come to the earth. So if you have some more tightness in the shoulders or in the back, this posture might feel quite intense already, and maybe the head is just starting to make its way down towards the earth. There's no need to push or pull yourself further than the body is ready to go. And if you've taken the knees nice and wide here, you should find that you've got a little bit of space to begin dropping the chest closer to the earth as well. So pressing into the hands, gently start lifting back up to tabletop position. So walking the wrists back in line with the shoulders, walking the knees back in line with the hips. And we're going to step forwards to a low lunge position from here. So maybe grabbing a hold of the right ankle to help it forwards, particularly if it's early in the morning. And then maybe shuffling that left knee a little bit further back if you have some more space to stretch here. Now what we're aiming for is for the right knee to stack directly above the right ankle. If you've come into this posture and you notice that that knee is really overextending, see if you can shuffle that foot a little bit further forwards. We're aiming for almost a perpendicular angle here in the knee. And you can keep the fingertips down on the ground to support you. If this already feels too intense for the hips, it might feel nice just to lift the fingertips up a little bit higher by using a prop of some sort or some variety. Otherwise, you can bring the hands to frame that front foot. Keep hugging the femur of the right thigh back into the right hip socket, and in doing so that left hip will begin to roll forwards. The inner thighs will start to hug together. So although this looks like rather a nice relaxing stretch for the hips, it is in fact quite an active posture to hold and stay with. So keep that activation in the lower body in order to maintain your alignment here. It should feel in the meantime like the fingertips are pulling gently towards the back of the mat to keep the shoulders engaged. The shoulder blades should feel as though they're rolling down the back toward the waist, drawing towards one another either side of the spine. Keep the chest lifted, the head and neck in line with the spine. And as you keep that light engagement in the legs, maybe you begin to find that with each and every exhale, you can drop the hips a little bit closer to the earth. Take one more deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, start to lift the hips up a little bit higher. Heel toe that right foot towards the outer edge of the mat so you've got just enough space to slide it back behind. And maybe take some easy circles through the hips while you're here, reaching from side to side, or maybe forwards and backwards. Just even out through both sides of the body before we find our way to the next side. So we'll be coming onto the left next, so grabbing a hold of the left ankle, maybe just guiding it forwards. And once again, checking in to make sure that that knee isn't extending beyond the ankle. If it is, you can shuffle your left foot further forwards, or maybe shuffle the right knee a little bit further back. So as you come into this posture, notice whether your right hip is reaching forwards to try and find a deeper stretch. See if you can resist that urge by pulling the right hip back, pulling the left hip back and rolling the right hip forwards. So we want the pelvis, the hips, to be absolutely parallel to the short edge of the mat. And if the hips are parallel to the short edge of the mat, you might start to feel the inner thighs working a little bit harder to stabilize the lower body. And again, you've got the option here to keep the fingertips down on the ground either side of that front foot, or you've got the option to use a block to give you a little bit of extra height here, maybe bringing both hands to the inside of that left thigh. And every time you exhale, you might begin to find that the hips can sink a little bit deeper without sacrificing the integrity of the alignment there. Maybe you begin to feel a little bit softer in this stretch and the fingertips can come a little bit closer to the earth. Maybe you find that you can place that prop to one side. And in the meantime, just make sure that the upper body is doing everything that it needs to. Sometimes when we're concentrating very hard on the lower body, the back can begin to collapse, or the head is sort of dangling down towards the earth, and we begin to hold on to a lot of tension and tightness in the shoulders. So really loop the shoulders down the back, away from the ears, Lift the chest, lift the gaze. Keep the head and neck in line with the rest of the spine. And take another couple of breaths here before we release. Inhaling through the nose and out through the nose. And once you've had enough here, start to bring the left fingertips to the inside of the left foot. And just heel toe the left foot all the way around so that it can meet the right knee. Finding our way back to neutral tabletop. And from here, we'll cross the ankles over behind the body and walk the legs all the way out in front. So once we arrive here, we're going to be bringing the soles of the feet to touch and opening the knees out to the sides for Baddha Konasana. So this works just as well as a stretch for the back as it does for the hips if we take the restorative variation here. So the feet can be as far away from the body as you would like. If you bring them further away, you will create more of a diamond shape with the legs, and that might feel more comfortable if there's any tension or tightness there in the lower body already. Otherwise, you can walk the feet nice and close toward the pelvis. Maybe grab a hold of the feet or the ankles, wherever feels comfortable and accessible. And as you inhale, start to roll the shoulders down and away from the ears. Lift the heart, grow tall through the spine. And as you exhale, begin to fold forwards. So if you aim to keep a straight spine here, you may find, if it's early in the morning, like it is for me, that you only fold maybe an inch or a couple of inches further forwards in space. You might feel this stretch in the hips, in the lower back. There are lots of different areas of the body that this stretch targets. And if it is the upper back that happens to be giving you any trouble at the moment, it might feel nicer to drop the head and neck down towards the feet and round through the spine here so that you're decompressing all of the space here at the back of the neck. Releasing between each and every vertebra of the cervical spine. So as the head and neck grow heavy in this posture, maybe the shoulders begin to grow heavy too, the entire upper body surrendering itself toward the earth. And if you begin to fold forwards far enough that the elbows begin to make contact with the calves of the legs or maybe with the thighs, you have the option there to bring a small amount of pressure to the legs, just to help guide the knees a little bit closer to the earth. On your next inhale, gently start to roll through the spine. Find your way back up to an easy seat. And keeping the legs right where they are, we're going to start to walk the body back into a reclining position. So settle down onto the elbows and then release all the way down onto the back. And what we're taking here is our reclining bound ankle pose. So the soles of the feet continue to touch together. The knees continue to open out to the sides. You've got the option, if you can reach, to bring the palms of the hands to the insides of the knees or the insides of the thighs. And just use that really gentle pressure of the arms against the legs to guide the knees a little bit closer to the earth. If it feels nicer, you can bring the arms down by the sides of the body, Maybe turn the palms up to face the ceiling. Roll the shoulders down and away from the ears. And begin to turn the attention back inward. Becoming aware once again of the sensation of the breath inside of the body. Using your exhalations to release any tension or tightness that you encounter in the shoulders, in the back, in the hips or in the legs. And once you've had enough here, gently start to use the hands to guide the knees together. And we'll stretch out one more time for the lower back by hugging the knees in toward the chest. And all we're doing here is maybe drawing some nice big circles with the knees, or maybe rocking from side to side or forwards and backwards. Allowing a nice massage for the sacrum, for the lower back here. So take as long as you need to, circling out through the knees. Maybe drawing some circles here with one leg at a time, and then coming over to the opposite side. An option now to ball up nice and tight one final time, hugging the knees in toward the chest and squeezing the forehead toward the knees. So as you inhale, start to engage all the muscles in the body one final time. And then exhale to release the body out long for Shavasana. So as you send the legs all the way out, begin to relax the feet a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. Bring the arms down by the sides of the body and turn the palms up to face the ceiling. Notice whether the shoulders have begun to creep up and around the ears. Roll them away, create length in the neck. Soften the space between the eyebrows. Slacken the jaw. And release the tongue inside of the mouth. No longer controlling the breath, but simply observing the natural rhythm of your inhalations and exhalations. And feel free to stay here for as long as you'd like. You can always stay here after the video is finished. But if you would like to start waking up from this one, you can begin by inviting a little bit more breath back into the body. Lengthening your inhalations and deepening your exhalations. Maybe inviting some movement back into the body by bending into the fingers and toes, or circling up through the wrists and ankles. If it feels nice to take one final full body stretch, take a deep inhale to float the arms up and overhead, stretch out through the legs. And exhale to bend the knees in toward the body, turning over onto one side. And just taking some time here as you begin to find your way back up nice and slowly to an easy, comfortable seat. So however you began your practice here, return the palms of the hands to the knees. Soften the eyelids closed. Inhale to grow tall through the spine. And exhale out through the mouth. All together, we'll take one final deep inhale to float the arms up and overhead. Connect the palms at the top. And as you exhale, draw the hands to heart center. Tilt the chin toward the chest. And inhale to open your eyes. Namaste.